My name is Marcus Chen, and I've been driving long haul for Midwest Freight for 11 years. I'm divorced, been that way for 3, and I guess that's why I don't mind the loneliness of the road anymore. At least out here, the silence doesn't judge you. It was a Thursday night in late October when I picked up the hitchhiker on Route 50, somewhere between the Nebraska-Kansas border, where the land stretches flat and endless under a sky so big it makes you feel like an ant. The air that night smelled like rain that hadn't fallen yet, mixing with the diesel exhaust from my rig and the faint sweetness of harvested corn from the fields on either side. My CB radio crackled with static. Most drivers had gone quiet by 2 a.m., leaving just the occasional trucker dealing with insomnia or amphetamines. The highway was a black ribbon cutting through darker farmland, my headlights the only stars for miles. That's when I saw her. She stood on the shoulder, thumb out, wearing a yellow raincoat that seemed too bright, too clean for someone stranded in the middle of nowhere. Her face was pale in my headlights, young, maybe early 20s, with dark hair plastered to her cheeks. Something about her posture, the way she stood so still, made my foot ease off the accelerator. I don't usually pick up hitchhikers. Company policy forbids it, and after 30 years of news stories about serial killers and robberies, you'd have to be stupid or desperate. But she looked desperate, and maybe I was lonely enough to be stupid. I pulled over, air brakes hissing like a tired beast. Through my passenger mirror, I watched her jog toward the cab, her sneakers splashing through puddles I hadn't noticed. When she climbed in, bringing a gust of cold October air with her, I got a better look. Pretty, in a tired way. Eyes too wide, like she'd been crying or hadn't slept in days. "Thank you," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you so much. I thought I'd be out here all night." "Where you headed?" I asked, shifting back into gear. The engine rumbled beneath us as we merged onto the empty highway. "Colby, just a Colby." She pulled the yellow raincoat tighter around herself, even though the cab was warm. I cranked the heat up anyway. "That's about 80 miles. You got someone meeting you there?" She nodded but didn't elaborate. I didn't push. The road teaches you that everyone's running from something, or toward it. Most times, it's better not to know which. For the first 20 minutes, we drove in comfortable silence. My windshield wipers squeaked rhythmically against glass that didn't need cleaning, just habit. The white lines on the road hypnotized me the way they always did on these late shifts, pulling me into that trance-like state where you're awake, but not quite present. The radio played low, some AM station playing country songs from the 70s that made me think of my father. Then she spoke again, and her voice had changed. Flatter, distant. "Do you believe in ghosts, Marcus?" I glanced over, surprised she knew my name. Then I remembered it was stitched on my jacket, right above the company logo. Still, something about the way she said it made my skin prickle. "Can't say I've given it much thought," I said carefully. "I do." She was staring straight ahead now, her reflection ghostly in the passenger window. "I believe we leave pieces of ourselves behind, on roads like this, in moments we can't take back." The heater seemed too loud suddenly, the hum of the engine too aggressive. I checked my mirrors, still alone on the highway, just my rig and miles of darkness. "You okay, miss?" She didn't answer. Her breathing had become shallow, quick. In the dim green light from my dashboard, I saw her hands were shaking. "Miss?" When she turned to look at me, her eyes were different, darker, like someone had turned off a light behind them. "I never made it to Colby," she whispered. My heart kicked hard against my ribs. "What?" "October 17th, 2019. I was walking. A truck, not yours, a different one. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did." Her voice cracked. "It was raining, just like tonight. I wanted to pull over, but my hands stayed locked on the wheel. The road ahead seemed to narrow, the darkness pressing in from both sides. My headlights caught something in the distance, a shape on the shoulder, yellow and crumpled. "That's not..." I started, but my voice died. As we passed the spot, I saw it clearly in the brief wash of my lights. A yellow raincoat, muddy and torn, lying in the grass, and beside it a small white cross with wilted flowers. 3 years, she said from behind me now. Behind me, even though I hadn't heard her move. 3 years I've been trying to get home. I whipped around, nearly losing control of the rig. The passenger seat was empty. The seatbelt dangled loose, still swaying slightly. The door was shut tight, locked from the inside. My CB radio erupted with static, then a voice, her voice, whispered through it. "Thank you for stopping." Then silence. I pulled over hard, tires screaming, and threw open the passenger door. Cold wind rushed in, carrying the smell of rain and something else. Something floral and wrong, like funeral flowers left too long in water. The overhead light illuminated an empty seat, but when I looked down I saw wet footprints leading from the passenger side to where I sat. They stopped at my seat, as if she'd been standing right behind me. If you're new here, subscribe to Untold Fears for nightly stories that make you question every sound on the road. I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. Filed my report, took a week off, saw a therapist who prescribed pills I didn't take. But I still drive Route 50, still see that stretch of highway near the Kansas border. And sometimes on rainy October nights, I see her again in my rearview mirror, thumb out, yellow raincoat bright against the darkness. And I don't stop. I never stop anymore. But just 20 miles north, another officer met something far worse. Story 2. Cop pulled over a ghost car. Deputy Sarah Kellerman here. 10 years on the force, Whitman County Sheriff's Department, Washington State. I'm 34, unmarried, and I drink too much coffee to compensate for the fact that I'm usually the only officer on duty between midnight and 6 a.m. across 300 square miles of rural highway. My shift covers Highway 195, that long stretch between Spokane and Pullman where the wheat fields roll away into darkness, and you can drive for 20 minutes without seeing another soul. It was February, the kind of bitter, dry cold that makes your breath turn to ice in your lungs. The stars were hard and bright overhead. The Milky Way spilled across the sky like someone had scattered diamonds on black velvet. My patrol car's heater struggled against the chill seeping through the windows, and I had my thermos of burnt coffee wedged between my thighs as I watched the highway from my usual spot behind an abandoned grain elevator. The radio was quiet. Dispatch had signed off an hour ago with a board, "Stay warm, deputy," leaving me alone with the static and the occasional call from neighboring counties. I was half dozing when my radar gun lit up. 87 in a 60. I sat up straight, coffee sloshing. A car had just blown past me, a sedan, dark-colored, no headlights. In the split second it passed, I caught a glimpse of its silhouette against the starlit road. Something about it was wrong. Too low, too quiet. I hit my lights and pulled out, gravel spitting under my tires. My spotlight swept across the empty highway ahead. The sedan was maybe a quarter mile up, moving fast but not accelerating, just maintaining that same illegal speed like the driver hadn't noticed the flashing red and blue behind them. "County 12 to dispatch," I said into my radio, eyes fixed on the car. "I'm in pursuit of a dark sedan, northbound on 195 near milepost 72. No plates visible, no lights. Speed approximately 85. Static answered me. Then, "Copy, County 12. Need backup?" "Negative, just logging the stop." I closed the distance, hit my siren in short bursts. The car didn't slow, didn't speed up, just kept rolling through the darkness like it was on rails. As I got closer, my headlights illuminated more details that made my stomach tighten. The car was old, maybe from the 70s, a Chevy Impala or something similar. Primer gray, rust eating at the wheel wells. The rear window was dark, completely black, and I couldn't see anyone inside. No brake lights when it should have been slowing. No exhaust visible in the cold air. "County 12, vehicle is not responding, continuing pursuit." I accelerated, pulling alongside the car in the left lane. My spotlight flooded the driver's side, and that's when I saw him. Or rather, I saw through him. The driver was there. I could make out his shape, his hands on the wheel, his profile silhouetted. But he was translucent, like someone had projected his image onto smoke. His face was turned toward the road, expression blank, and as my light hit him, he didn't react, didn't turn, didn't blink. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. The car drifted right, forcing me to brake hard. I dropped back, heart hammering, and watched as the sedan took an exit I hadn't noticed before. A small dirt road cutting between wheat fields, no sign to mark it. Without thinking, I followed. The road narrowed immediately, my tires crunching on gravel. My headlights bounced over potholes and ruts, and ahead the sedan's taillights, now suddenly visible, glowing red, led me deeper into the darkness. The wheat on either side stood tall and dead, rustling in a wind I couldn't feel inside my car. County 12 to dispatch. I followed the suspect vehicle onto an unmarked road off 195. Can you? Static. Pure, hissing static. I grabbed my radio, checked the channel. Nothing. The green display flickered, then went dark. My dashboard lights dimmed, and the heater died. In the sudden quiet, I could hear my own breathing, fast and shallow. The sedan ahead stopped. I stopped too, maybe 50 feet behind it, my hands slick on the wheel. Every instinct screamed at me to reverse, to get back to the highway, but I couldn't move. Through my windshield, I watched the driver's door open. Nobody got out. The door just hung there, interior light dark, yawning into nothing. I could see the seat, the steering wheel, but no driver, no shadow, no footprints in the frost-covered ground. My training took over, barely. I grabbed my flashlight, checked my sidearm, and stepped out into the cold. The air bit at my face, sharp with the smell of frozen earth, and something else, something chemical, like burnt rubber or scorched metal. "Sheriff's Department," I called out, my voice swallowed by the darkness. "Step out of the vehicle with your hands visible." No response, just the wind through the wheat, whispering. I approached slowly, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. Every step felt like walking underwater, resistance building with each movement. My breath came in white clouds, dissipating into the night. When I reached the open door, I shined my light inside. Empty, completely empty. No driver, no keys in the ignition. But the engine was still running. I could hear it, feel the vibration through the ground. Even though when I looked closer, there was no engine. The hood was gone, and beneath was just nothing. Empty space where machinery should have been. If this story is making you look over your shoulder, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started. On the dashboard, someone had carved words into the vinyl. February 12th, 1978. I'm sorry. Today was February 12th. Behind me, my patrol car's lights suddenly blazed to full intensity, the siren screaming to life without me touching it. I spun around, gun drawn, and saw my own car shaking violently, rocking on its suspension like someone was inside throwing themselves against the doors. Then it stopped. Lights off, siren dead, silence. When I turned back to the sedan, it was gone. Just tire tracks in the frost leading up to where I stood. Then, nothing. Like it had driven straight into the air and vanished. I ran back to my patrol car, threw myself inside, and reversed down that dirt road so fast I nearly rolled into the ditch. When I hit Highway 195 again, my radio crackled back to life. "County 12, what's your status? You dropped off for a minute there." I'm code 4, I lied, hands shaking. "False alarm on the pursuit. Vehicle must have turned around." Later, back at the station, I looked up records for Highway 195. Found a report from February 12th, 1978. A drunk driver had crashed into a wheat field off an unmarked road near milepost 72. The car had caught fire, trapping the driver inside. No survivors. The vehicle description matched exactly what I'd pulled over. I still patrol Highway 195, still work the midnight shift. But if I see a car with no headlights now, I let it go. Some tickets aren't worth writing. But that wasn't the strangest stop that winter. 20 miles east, a trucker saw a woman waving for help, and what happened next would haunt him forever. Story 3. Woman waving for help, then gone. Name's Dale Pritchard. I'm 51, been driving rigs for 30 years, mostly cross-country runs, the boring kind where you're hauling dry goods from warehouse to warehouse, and the only excitement is trying to find a decent meal at a truck stop. I've got 2 ex-wives, 3 kids I don't see enough, and a mortgage on a house I'm never in. The road is more home than home ever was. It was mid-March, that weird time when winter's losing its grip, but spring hasn't quite arrived. I was hauling electronics from Memphis to Little Rock, running behind schedule because of road construction, and I'd made the stupid decision to take Highway 64 instead of sticking to I-40. The GPS promised it'd save me 40 minutes. What it didn't mention was that those 40 minutes would stretch through some of the darkest, most isolated stretches of Arkansas backcountry I'd ever seen. The night was heavy, no moon, clouds smothering the stars. My headlights carved tunnels through the darkness, illuminating nothing but asphalt and the occasional reflective eyes of animals in the brush. The radio had given up trying to find a signal miles back, leaving me with just the rumble of the engine and the whistle of wind through a slightly cracked window. I smelled the forest before I saw it, that rich, loamy scent of wet leaves and rotting wood mixed with pine. The road had narrowed to 2 lanes, trees pressing in from both sides like they were trying to reclaim the asphalt. My eyes were burning from too many hours awake, and I was mentally calculating whether I could push another 50 miles before I needed to pull over. That's when I saw her. She was standing on the shoulder, arms waving over her head in the universal signal for distress. She was maybe 30, wearing a white dress that seemed to glow in my headlights. Not like reflecting light, but actually glowing, like it had absorbed moonlight even though there wasn't any. Her face was pale, her mouth open in what might have been a scream, but I was too far away to hear anything over my engine. I started braking, instinct overriding common sense. Every trucker knows you don't stop for strangers on isolated roads. There are too many stories of robberies, carjackings, worse. But she looked terrified, genuinely terrified. And I've got daughters. I'd want someone to stop if it were them. I pulled over about 20 yards past her, air brakes hissing, and grabbed my flashlight from the door pocket. Through my mirrors, I watched her approach. She walked quickly, but strangely. Her feet didn't quite seem to touch the ground, and that white dress didn't move right. No wind flutter, no sway. Just rigid, like it was painted on. I cracked my door open. "Ma'am, you all right?" She stopped about 10 feet from my cab. Now that she was closer, I could see her face more clearly, and something about it made my throat tighten. Her features were perfect, too perfect. Like a mannequin or an AI-generated image. No asymmetry, no real human imperfection. And her eyes, Jesus, her eyes were completely black. No whites, no iris. Just black pools that caught and held my flashlight beam. "Please," she said, and her voice echoed weird, like she was speaking in a tunnel. "Please help me. He's coming." "Who's coming?" I kept one hand on my door handle, ready to slam it and go. She pointed back down the highway, toward the darkness I'd driven through. "He follows me. Every night. I can't escape him. Please, let me in. Please." Every rational part of my brain screamed, danger. But she looked so desperate, so afraid, that I found my hand reaching for the passenger door lock. Before I could touch it, she lunged. Not walked, not ran. Lunged, her body stretching impossibly, arms extending like taffy, fingers elongating into clawed things that scraped against my door with a sound like nails on a chalkboard. That beautiful face split open, mouth widening into a grin too large for any human skull, filled with teeth that looked like broken glass. I slammed the door and locked it, heart exploding in my chest. It, whatever it was, pressed against my window, and where its hands touched, the glass fogged with cold. I could see its breath, except the fog was black, oily, spreading across the glass like ink in water. "Let me in, Dale. Let me in, Dale. Let me in, Dale." It knew my name. It chanted my name in a voice that was now a chorus, multiple voices speaking in unison, some male, some female, some children. I threw the rig into gear and hit the accelerator. The tires spun, caught, and I lurched forward. Through my mirror, I saw the thing still standing there, but now its white dress was gone, replaced by shadows that writhed and twisted. And it was smiling, actually smiling as I drove away. My CB radio exploded with noise, static mixed with voices, hundreds of voices, all talking at once. "Help me! He's coming! Don't leave me! I'm so cold! Why didn't you stop?" I ripped the radio out of the dashboard and threw it into the sleeper cab behind me. The voices stopped, but I could still hear them echoing in my skull. Hit that subscribe button if your hands are as sweaty as mine were that night. I drove without stopping for 3 hours straight, didn't slow down until I hit the lights of Little Rock. When I finally pulled into a truck stop and stumbled into the bathroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror and nearly screamed. Scratched into my driver's side door, deep gouges in the metal, were words, "Next time you'll stop." But I never saw what had carved them, never felt the impact. The damage was just there. I reported it to the company as vandalism, got the door replaced, and didn't take Highway 64 again. I looked into it later, though, couldn't help myself. Found newspaper archives from the 1950s about a woman in a white dress who'd been murdered on that stretch of road, her killer never found. Witnesses claim she'd been waving for help when a car stopped, and the driver dragged her into the woods. They found her 3 weeks later, what was left of her. I still drive the night routes, still haul cargo across empty highways, but if I see someone waving for help now, I call 911 and keep driving. Because sometimes the people asking for help aren't people at all. Sometimes they're the things that learned how to look like us. But if you think that's unsettling, wait until you hear what Jake Hollis saw. A semi-truck with no driver running full speed down the interstate. Story 4. Truck with no driver spotted. Jake Hollis, that's me. I'm a highway patrol officer with the Nevada State Police, assigned to I-80 between Reno and Elko. 43 years old, been on the force for 19 years, and I've seen some weird shit on this highway. Drunk drivers who swear they saw UFOs. Meth heads convinced the government's implanted chips in their teeth. Truckers who haven't slept in days, hallucinating entire conversations with people who aren't there. But I've never seen anything like what I saw on the night of April 3rd. Never even came close. The desert at night is its own kind of alien landscape. The darkness out here isn't like darkness anywhere else. It's absolute, consuming, broken only by your headlights and the occasional distant glow of Reno behind you. The air smells like sage and dust, and when you roll your windows down, the silence is so complete it feels like pressure in your ears. I was parked at milepost 248, sitting in my cruiser with the engine running and the heater going against the desert chill. The temperature drops fast out here once the sun sets. 70s during the day, 30s at night. My radar gun was propped on the dashboard. My coffee was lukewarm, and I was listening to a podcast about cold cases when my radar lit up. 94 miles per hour. A semi-truck screamed past me, 18-wheeler hauling a standard cargo container, running way over the limit. I caught a glimpse of it in my headlights. White cab, no company markings, trailer that looked rusted and old. "Dispatch, this is Unit 47. I'm in pursuit of a commercial vehicle, Eastbound I-80 near milepost 248. Speed 94. Will advise. I pulled out, hit my lights and siren, and accelerated hard. The cruiser's engine roared as I pushed it toward 100, closing the gap. The truck ahead didn't slow, didn't react, just kept barreling down the highway at that same reckless speed. As I got closer, my spotlight illuminating the back of the trailer, I noticed something wrong. The truck's brake lights weren't working. Not unusual for an older rig. But more than that, the trailer was swaying slightly, like the load inside wasn't secured properly. And there was something written on the back doors in what looked like spray paint. No stops, no exceptions. I radioed it in, then pulled alongside the cab to get a look at the driver. That's when I saw the empty seat. No driver. The cab was completely empty. No one at the wheel, no one in the passenger seat. But the truck was moving, maintaining its lane, navigating the slight curves of the highway like someone was steering it. I blinked, sure I was seeing wrong. Maybe the driver was ducked down, reaching for something? But no, I could see the entire interior through the side window. Empty, completely empty. Dispatch, Unit 47, I've got a problem here. The commercial vehicle appears to have no driver. Repeat, no visible operator in the cab. Static. Then, Unit 47, can you confirm? Did you say no driver? Confirmed. The cab is empty. Vehicle is maintaining speed and lane control with no visible operator. I could hear the confusion in the dispatcher's voice. Unit 47, that's... Pull back and wait for backup. Don't approach the vehicle. But I couldn't pull back. Something about that truck drew me closer, like gravity. I matched its speed, staring through the side window, and that's when I saw movement in the sleeper cab behind the driver's seat. Shadows. Multiple shadows, writhing and twisting over each other like a pit of snakes. They pressed against the curtain, separating the sleeper from the front seats, bulging the fabric, and I could see shapes, hands, faces, mouths open in silent screams. My blood went cold. The truck suddenly swerved toward me, closing the gap between us. I jerked the wheel right, narrowly avoiding contact, and dropped back hard. Through my windshield, I watched the trailer doors swing open. They shouldn't have been able to. They were supposed to be locked from the outside, and something fell out. Not cargo, a body. It hit the asphalt and tumbled, a dark shape that disappeared under my wheels before I could react. I felt the sickening thud-thud as my tires ran over it, and then it was gone, spinning away into the darkness behind me. Dispatch, I need backup, now. The vehicle has... Something fell out. Possible pedestrian strike. If you're still watching, you're braver than most. Subscribe to Untold Fears. We're just getting to the good part. I slammed on my brakes, tires screaming, and skidded to a stop on the shoulder. Ahead, the truck kept going, its red taillights fading into the distance. I threw my cruiser into reverse, spotlights sweeping the highway for the body. Nothing. No body. No debris. No blood. Just empty asphalt stretching in both directions. I radioed for backup again and waited, engine idling, hands shaking on the wheel. 2 other units arrived within 20 minutes, and we searched the highway together. Found nothing. No body, no evidence of impact. My dash cam footage showed the object falling from the truck, showed me driving over it, but when we reviewed it frame by frame, the object was just darkness, a shadow that moved like solid matter. We never found the truck, put out an APB, checked way stations, called ahead to Utah Highway Patrol. Nothing. It had vanished somewhere on that 120-mile stretch between where I'd lost it and the state line. But the next morning, the Nevada State Police got a call from a hiker who'd found a cargo container abandoned in the desert about 5 miles south of I-80. Old, rusted, spray-painted with no stops, no exceptions. When they opened it, they found remains. 23 bodies in various states of decomposition, some recent, some decades old. all of them missing persons from up and down I-80, stretching back to the 1980s. The FBI took over the investigation, ruled it a serial killer's dump site, but they never identified a suspect. I know what I saw, though. I saw that truck driving itself, saw the shadows in the sleeper cab. And I've driven I-80 every night shift for the past year, looking for it again. I haven't found it yet. But sometimes when I'm parked at milepost 248 in the dead of night, I see taillights in the distance, red eyes in the darkness. And I wonder if it's out there, still driving, still collecting, still waiting for someone else to try and pull it over. But at least that truck was visible. Officer Maria Santos dealt with something worse, a patrol car radio that connected to places the living shouldn't hear. Story 5. Patrol car radio haunted. Officer Maria Santos, Seattle PD, South Precinct. I've been on the force for 6 years, and before this job, I was a 911 dispatcher, so I know how radio systems work. I know the frequencies, the protocols, the way voices sound when they're transmitted through police band. I know what's possible and what isn't. What happened to me during my night shift on May 15th wasn't possible. Seattle at 3 a.m. is a different city. The tech workers and tourists are gone, leaving just us, the police, the homeless, the insomniacs, and the people with nowhere else to be. I was patrolling the International District, windows down to smell the mix of restaurant grease, salt water from the Sound, and the ever-present undercurrent of rain-soaked concrete. My radio was quiet. A few calls from North Precinct, a traffic stop in Capitol Hill, but mostly just the ambient static and occasional check-ins. I was parked outside a closed pho restaurant doing paperwork on my laptop when my radio crackled to life. Unit 2 Adam 9, respond to 347 South Weller Street, reports of a disturbance. I keyed my mic. Copy dispatch, 2 Adam 9 responding. But even as I put my cruiser in gear, something felt wrong. The dispatcher's voice had been off, flat, no emotion. And 347 South Weller was an empty lot, had been for 5 years, ever since the building was demolished. I drove there anyway, protocol dictating I at least check it out. The lot was exactly as I remembered. Chain link fence, cracked concrete, weeds growing through the foundation. No disturbance, no people. 2 Adam 9 to dispatch. I'm at 347 South Weller. No sign of any activity. Can you confirm the caller's description? Static. Long, hissing static that made my spine tingle. Then, Unit 2, Adam 9. Caller reports screaming. Female. Apartment 3B. Please investigate. Dispatch, there's no apartment here. The building was demolished in Apartment 3B, 3rd floor. Hurry, she's still screaming. My hands went cold on the wheel. I could hear it now, beneath the static. Distant screaming, faint but distinct. A woman's voice, high-pitched with terror, coming through my radio. Dispatch, who is this? Identify yourself. The voice that answered wasn't the dispatcher. It was older, male, tired. This is Officer Raymond Cole, badge 3847. I'm at 347 South Weller, apartment 3B. We've got a domestic violence situation. Victim is unresponsive, requesting medical assistance. I looked up Officer Raymond Cole later. He'd been a Seattle PD officer, died in 2003, killed responding to a domestic violence call at 347 South Weller Street, shot by the suspect in apartment 3B. The building had been torn down afterward as part of an urban renewal project. This isn't funny, I said into my radio, voice shaking. Whoever this is, you're committing a felony. Cease all transmissions on this frequency. More static. Then voices, dozens of voices, all talking at once. Officer down! Officer down! Officer down! Requesting backup at shots fired. I can't find the suspect. Where am I? Why won't anyone answer? I ripped my handheld radio off my belt and turned it off. The voices stopped. My dashboard radio was still on, but silent now. I sat there, breathing hard, staring at the empty lot and trying to make sense of what I just heard. My phone rang, my personal cell, not my work phone. I answered it without thinking. Hello? Static. Then Officer Cole's voice, clearer now, like he was in the car with me. Officer Santos, you need to leave, now. They know you can hear them. Who knows? Who are you? The ones who never left. The ones who died on the job. We're stuck on the radio, Maria, stuck in our last calls. And when you hear us, we can see you. Subscribe if you're feeling that cold touch on the back of your neck right now. This only gets darker. I hung up and threw my phone on the passenger seat. My dashboard radio crackled back to life, but now it wasn't voices, it was screaming. Pure, agonized screaming, multiple voices layered over each other, all in pain, all terrified. I started the cruiser and drove. Fast. Got back to the precinct and filed a report about equipment malfunction, requested a new radio system. They replaced everything, radio, antenna, even the wiring, but it didn't help. Because the next night when I was back on patrol, I heard Officer Cole again. They're coming for you, Maria. You opened the door when you listened. Now they know you can hear them, and they're so lonely. Every shift since then, I hear them. Dead officers, dead dispatchers, dead callers who never got help. They talk to me through my radio, through my phone, through any speaker I'm near. They whisper coordinates to places where terrible things happened. They describe crimes that were never solved. They beg me to help them. I've tried quitting, tried transferring to desk duty, but they follow me. Last week I heard them through my car stereo, through my laptop speakers, through the PA system at the grocery store. They want someone to know they're still there, still answering calls, still trying to help. And I think they want me to join them. I still work nights, still patrol the International District, but I drive with my radio volume low, and I never, ever respond to calls at 347 South Weller Street, because some frequencies connect to places the living shouldn't go. But at least I knew what I was dealing with. Officer Tom Bridges responded to an accident scene that shouldn't have existed. Story 6. Accident with no victims found. Tom Bridges, Montana Highway Patrol, 12 years on the job. I'm 46, got a beer gut and a bad knee from a pursuit that went wrong 5 years back. I'm divorced, my kids are grown, and I spend most of my free time fishing alone on the Madison River. The job is routine now, speeding tickets, the occasional DUI, welfare checks on stranded motorists in the winter. At least it was routine until June 9th. I was working the night shift on Highway 287, that lonely stretch between Ennis and Sheridan, where the mountains press close and the Madison River runs parallel to the road. It's beautiful country during the day, aspens and pines, meadows full of wildflowers, elk grazing at dawn. At night, it's different. The darkness is heavy with the smell of river water and pine sap, and the only sounds are your engine and the occasional owl. Around 2:30 a.m., dispatch called me. Unit 6, we've got reports of a possible vehicle accident on Highway 287, milepost 47. Caller reported seeing flames. Can you respond? Copy, dispatch, 6 responding. Milepost 47 was about 10 minutes from my position. I hit my lights and drove fast, watching the tree line for the orange glow of fire. The road curved along the river, and I could hear the water rushing over rocks, even with my windows up. I saw the flames before I reached the milepost, bright orange and yellow, leaping up from the shoulder on the east side of the highway. As I got closer, I could make out the shape of a vehicle, fully engulfed, black smoke pouring into the night sky. I pulled over, grabbed my fire extinguisher and flashlight, and radioed it in. Dispatch confirmed vehicle fire at milepost 47. Single vehicle, fully involved, no visible occupants, requesting fire and rescue. Copy 6, EMS and fire en route, ETA 20 minutes. 20 minutes is an eternity when someone might be trapped in a burning car. I ran toward the flames, heat hitting me like a physical wall. The vehicle was a sedan, maybe a Honda or Toyota, on its side in the ditch. The fire was so intense I couldn't get within 15 feet, couldn't see through the flames to check for victims. "Anyone in the car?" I shouted, knowing it was useless. Nobody could survive that inferno. "Call out if you can hear me." No response, just the roar of flames and the crackle of burning upholstery. I circled the wreck, looking for evidence of ejection, bodies thrown from the vehicle, personal effects scattered in the grass. Nothing. The ground was undisturbed except for the gouge marks where the car had rolled into the ditch. That's when I noticed something strange. There were no skid marks on the highway, no indication that the driver had tried to brake or swerve. The car had just driven off the road at full speed, like the driver had steered deliberately into the ditch. Fire and rescue arrived, foam and water killing the flames in minutes. When the smoke cleared, we approached the blackened skeleton of the sedan. The metal was still glowing red, radiating heat, and the smell of burnt rubber and plastic was overwhelming. But there was no body. The driver's seat was empty, melted, charred, but empty. So was the passenger seat, the back seats, the trunk. We searched the entire area with flashlights and thermal imaging cameras. No victims, no footprints leading away, no blood, no indication anyone had been in that car when it burned. "Maybe they got out before the fire started," one of the firefighters suggested. But that didn't make sense. The fire had been intense, meaning it had been burning for a while. If someone had gotten out, they'd be nearby, injured, in shock, visible. We searched for half a mile in every direction. Nothing. Dispatch ran the plates. The car had been reported stolen 3 days earlier in Bozeman, 80 miles north. Owner said she'd left it running outside a convenience store, ran in to buy coffee, and it was gone when she came back out. We towed the wreck, filed a report, and I went home at dawn feeling unsettled, but attributing it to exhaustion. Then it happened again. 3 nights later, milepost 53, same stretch of highway, 6 miles north. Another vehicle fire, another empty car, another impossible disappearance. Same pattern, no skid marks, no victims, no evidence anyone had been inside. And again, milepost 41, milepost 62, milepost 38. 7 accidents over 3 weeks, all on Highway 287, all at night, all between mileposts 35 and 65. 7 burning vehicles, 0 bodies, 0 survivors found. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is your last warning. Things are about to get worse. I started reviewing the dispatch calls. All 7 accidents had been reported by the same caller, anonymous, using different phone numbers each time, all burner phones. The voice was different each time, but the message was always the same. "There's flames on Highway 287. You need to help them." Except there was never a them to help. On the 8th night, I staked out milepost 50, parked in the trees with my lights off. If another accident was going to happen, I wanted to see how. Wanted to catch whoever was staging these scenes. Around 3 a.m., I saw headlights approaching from the south. A sedan, driving slowly. It reached milepost 50, then suddenly swerved off the road, no brake lights, no warning, and rolled into the ditch exactly where I'd predicted. I floored my accelerator, reached the wreck in seconds. No fire yet. I jumped out, flashlight in hand, and ran to the driver's side. Empty. The car was completely empty. Engine still running, keys in the ignition, but no driver. The door was locked from the inside, and carved into the steering wheel, still warm to the touch, were words, "They never leave the road." That's when I heard them, voices coming from the river. Dozens of voices whispering, calling my name. "Tom, Tom Bridges, help us. We're still here, we never left." I backed away from the car, flashlight beams sweeping the darkness. Movement in the trees, shadows that moved against the wind. And on the highway behind me, standing in the middle of the yellow lines, a figure. No, figures. Plural. 7 of them, translucent in my headlights, wearing the burnt and tattered remains of clothes. Their faces were blackened, skin peeling, eyes reflecting light like animals. They were the victims, the ones we'd never found. They'd been there all along, burning with their cars, trapped in some loop they couldn't escape. And now they knew I could see them. I ran to my cruiser, locked the doors, and radioed for backup. When other units arrived, the figures were gone, but the sedan remained, engine running, empty. I requested a transfer the next week, got assigned to desk duty in Missoula, but I still dream about Highway 287, still hear those voices calling my name from the river. And sometimes, when I'm driving late at night, I see them in my rearview mirror, burnt figures standing on the shoulder, thumbs out, asking for a ride. I never stop. But if burning cars and vanishing victims sound bad, listen to what Sarah Chen heard on an empty road in Texas. Story 7. Screams on Empty Road. Sarah Chen, private investigator based out of Houston. I'm 38, former homicide detective who went private after I burned out on bureaucracy and politics. I work cold cases mostly, missing persons, unsolved murders, the files that police departments have given up on. It doesn't pay well, but it lets me sleep at night. In July, I took a case in West Texas. A woman named Patricia Flores had disappeared 20 years earlier, last seen hitchhiking on State Highway 118 between Alpine and Study Butte. Her daughter, now in her 30s, hired me to drive the route and look for anything the original investigation might have missed. Highway 118 is brutal country, Chihuahuan desert, harsh and unforgiving. During the day, the heat shimmers off the asphalt in waves. At night, the temperature drops 40 degrees and the darkness is absolute. No towns, no gas stations, no cell service for 80 miles. I started my drive at 10 p.m., figuring I'd cover the route at night since that's when Patricia had gone missing. My rental car, a white Ford sedan, handled the empty highway well, and I kept my high beams on, scanning the shoulders for any sign of, what, a body? Evidence 20 years old? I didn't even know what I was looking for. The desert smelled like creosote and dust, and through my open window, I could hear coyotes yipping in the distance. The stars overhead were incredible, the Milky Way so bright it cast shadows. I almost felt peaceful. Then I heard the screaming. It came through my radio first, a woman's voice, high-pitched and terrified, cutting through the country music I'd been playing. I turned the volume down, but the screaming continued, coming from somewhere outside the car. I stopped, engine idling, and rolled down all my windows. The screaming was louder now, coming from the north side of the highway. Not distant, close, maybe 100 yards into the desert. A woman screaming for help, her voice raw with panic. Every instinct told me to drive away. I'm not law enforcement anymore. I don't carry a gun, and nobody knows exactly where I am right now. But I couldn't leave someone screaming in the desert. I grabbed my flashlight and my pepper spray and climbed out of the car. The night air was cold, biting at my exposed skin. I locked the car, force of habit, and walked toward the screaming, my flashlight beam bouncing over creosote bushes and rocks. "Hello," I called out. "I'm here to help. Where are you?" The screaming stopped. Complete silence. No coyotes, no wind, no insects, just me in the darkness, in my own breathing. "Hello?" I called again, softer now. Then the screaming started again, but from a different direction, south side of the highway now, behind my car. I spun around, flashlight sweeping, and saw nothing but empty desert. "Help me," a voice whispered, right behind my ear. I whipped around, nothing there, but I could feel breath on the back of my neck, cold and damp. I ran back to my car, fumbling with the keys, and that's when I saw her. standing on the highway about 50 feet ahead, illuminated by my headlights. A woman in her 40s, wearing clothes from the 90s, jeans, a denim jacket, sneakers. Her hair was long and dark, her face pale. Patricia Flores. I'd seen her photo in the case file. This was her. Hit subscribe if you know you shouldn't be watching this alone at night. Patricia? I called out, hand on my car door. She didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at me with eyes that didn't reflect light. Then she screamed. That same horrible, desperate scream I'd been hearing, her mouth opening too wide, stretching impossibly, and the sound was so loud it felt like ice picks in my ears. I threw myself into the car, started the engine, and floored it. As I passed her, she turned to watch me go, head rotating a full 180 degrees, and I saw her face change, aging rapidly, skin drying out, cracking, falling away until there was nothing but skull and empty eye sockets. In my rearview mirror, she stood in the middle of the highway, a skeleton in rotting clothes, and then she was gone. I drove for 20 minutes straight before I pulled over, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the wheel. I called Patricia's daughter on my satellite phone and told her I'd found something, not a body, not evidence, but proof that her mother had died on that highway. I lied, said I'd found old police reports that confirmed her death. I couldn't tell her the truth, couldn't say I'd seen her mother's ghost screaming in the desert. Later, I did more research, found out that in 1999, a trucker had reported hearing screams on Highway 118 around the same milepost where I'd stopped. He'd searched, found Patricia Flores's body hidden in a ravine. She'd been murdered, strangled, dumped there by person or persons unknown. The killer was never caught. I think she's still there, still screaming, still trying to get someone to find her. Even though she's already been found, even though she's been buried for 20 years. Some traumas don't end when you die, some echo forever. I finished that case, took my payment, and swore I'd never work in West Texas again. But I still hear her screaming sometimes when I'm trying to sleep. Still see her face in my nightmares, rotting away in the headlights. And I wonder how many other victims are out there on lonely highways, trapped in their final moments, screaming for help that never comes. But at least Patricia stayed in one place. Michael Ross faced something that chased him down the interstate. Story 8. Man reports shadow chasing car. Michael Ross. I'm a pharmaceutical sales rep, 32 years old, and I spend half my life on the road driving between hospitals and clinics across the Midwest. I'm single, no kids, and I've logged over 200,000 miles on my current car. I know highways. I know how to stay awake on long drives. I know what's normal and what's not. What happened on October 28th wasn't normal. I was driving south on I-35 through Iowa, heading from Des Moines to Kansas City for an early morning meeting. Left at 11 p.m., planning to drive through the night, arrive by dawn, grab a hotel room, and shower before my presentation. The highway was empty. Thursday night, most people already home, just me and the occasional trucker. The night was clear, cold, stars bright. I had cruise control set at 78, country music playing low, and a thermos of coffee in my cup holder. My mind was on autopilot, running through my sales pitch, when I noticed a shadow in my rearview mirror. It wasn't a car, wasn't headlights, just a dark shape on the highway behind me, roughly car size but wrong somehow. It moved too smoothly, didn't reflect any light, and it was gaining on me. I adjusted my mirror thinking it was a trick of perspective, but it was still there, a black mass flowing down the highway like oil, maybe 200 yards back. My cruise control was still set at 78. The speed limit was 70. Most traffic moved at 75 to 80. Whatever this was, it was coming up fast. I pressed the accelerator, bringing my speed to 85. The shadow matched me. 90, still matching. 95. It was closer now, maybe 100 yards back, and I could see it more clearly, or rather, I could see the absence of everything around it. It was like a hole in reality, a void that swallowed the white lines on the road, the reflective signs, even the starlight. My heart hammered. I fumbled for my phone, tried to call 911, but I had no signal. Of course I didn't, middle of nowhere, between towns, no cell towers for miles. At 100 miles per hour, my car started to shake. I wasn't designed to go this fast, not safely, but I couldn't slow down. The shadow was 50 yards back now, and I could feel it. Feel its presence like cold water running down my spine. Then my radio died. Engine still running, headlights still on, but the radio just cut out mid-song. The dashboard lights dimmed. My fuel gauge needle dropped from 3/4 full to empty in seconds, even though that was impossible. And the shadow was right behind me. I could see it in all 3 mirrors now: rear view, driver's side, passenger side. It filled my entire rear windshield, a darkness so complete it hurt to look at. And within that darkness, shapes moved. Hands pressing against the inside of my trunk, trying to get through. Faces forming and dissolving in the black mass. Eyes, dozens of eyes, all watching me. My engine sputtered, started to die. No, 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 no. I slammed the gas pedal to the floor, but the engine was giving up, speed dropping from 95 to 80 to 65. The shadow touched my bumper. Cold exploded through the car. My breath fogged. Ice formed on the inside of my windows. I could hear whispers now, voices speaking in languages I didn't understand, and beneath that, a sound like grinding metal and breaking glass. Then I saw the exit sign. Rest area 1 mile. I didn't think, just jerked the wheel right, took the exit at 60 miles per hour, tires screaming. The shadow followed, staying right behind me. But as I pulled into the rest area, lights blazing, a couple RVs parked, people visible through bathroom windows, it stopped. Just stopped at the edge of the parking lot, a wall of darkness hovering over the entrance ramp. I could see it pulsing, writhing, like it was angry, but it didn't come closer. If you made it this far, you're part of the Untold Fears family. Subscribe and ring that bell. I sat in my car, engine finally dying completely, and stared at that shadow. It stayed there for 5 minutes, 10, 20. Then, as the first hint of dawn touched the eastern horizon, it receded, flowed backward down the highway like a tide going out, and then it was gone. When the sun came up, I got out and checked my car. The fuel tank was full, gauge still read empty, but when I opened the cap, I could smell gasoline. My engine started fine, radio worked, everything functioned normally, except the back bumper. Where the shadow had touched it, the metal was corroded, rusted completely through like it had been exposed to salt water for decades. And scratched into the rust were words: "Next time, don't run." I called a tow truck, had my car taken to a shop, told them I'd hit something on the highway, needed the bumper replaced. Didn't mention the shadow, didn't mention the rust or the words. I missed my meeting, sat in that rest area all day, drinking coffee from the vending machine, watching the highway, waiting to see if it would come back. It didn't. But I filed a report with the Iowa State Patrol anyway, called in anonymously, told them there was something dangerous on I-35 between Des Moines and the Missouri border. They thanked me for the tip and probably threw the report away. I still drive for work, still take I-35, but never at night, never alone. And I always make sure I can reach a rest area within 5 minutes, because those lights, those bright human lights, seem to keep it away. Whatever it was, whatever it is. I've done research since then, found reports going back to the 1970s, drivers reporting shadows on I-35, vehicles that disappeared, people who took that highway at night and were never seen again. The Highway Patrol calls it the I-35 phenomenon, and they've got a file 2 inches thick on disappearances and strange sightings. But they don't have an explanation, don't have a solution. They just keep cleaning up the abandoned cars they find on the shoulder, always with the same corroded bumpers, the same scratched words. Next time, don't run. Because whatever it is, it's still out there, still hunting, still chasing cars down the highway in the darkest hours of the night. And one of these days, it's going to catch someone who can't reach the lights in time. So if you ever drive Route 19 after midnight, if you ever see headlights that don't quite look right in your rearview mirror, if you ever hear voices on your radio that shouldn't be there, don't stop. Don't investigate. Don't look too closely. Because the roads remember everything. Every accident, every death, every moment of terror. And sometimes the roads want to share those memories with you. This has been Untold Fears. Drive safe out there, and remember, subscribe because the highway has more stories to tell. Stories that might just save your life. Subscribe to Untold Fears.